see. It goes live. All right, we're live. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, guys. Had last minute technical difficulties. I forgot to set up a camera for the Skype, but I do have one now, so we're good. Let's see. Welcome, guys. Let's get the show cracking. Let's see. So I see Carlos is in here. Doug is in here. Wayne, what's up? Running late today a little bit. Yeah. I had the camera up here, but I didn't have it plugged into the computer, so I had to take an extra minute to get under the desk and plug it in. But we're back. We're on. Let's start the show off, and then we'll get into the interview with Brian. So here we go. Welcome to Fishy Hour, the show where we hang out and talk about fishing. I see Carl's in the house, Doug, Wayne, Jet, HTX, Oscar, welcome. Leonard, what's up? MMFC, what's up, everybody? So today's episode is Thursday, and Thursdays we do interviews, and today's guest is Ryan, at BrianLikesToFish on Instagram. So,
Brian.
Hello, you there?
Now here.
All right, cool. All right, cool. So, Brian Likes to Fish on Instagram, at BrianLikesToFish, right?
Yep, that's it.
Cool, got it. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to spend the first 10-15 minutes doing a quick interview of his initial days as learning to be a fisherman, and then we're going to kind of continue the interview, but we're going to let you guys jump in with any questions, or we're going to field your questions as we go, okay? So here we go. Let me bring Brian into the stream. Let's see. Sorry, it always gets technical. Okay, I got to put the screen back here. Okay, let's see. Split screen. There you are. What up?
Hey, what's up? How are you guys?
All right, guys. So, for those of you who don't know Brian, he's been listening to the show pretty much since the beginning, and he comes out fishing with us. So, if you haven't been fishing with us, if you have been fishing with us, Brian he's the guy that's always on the Cool Baits boat, and he fishes with the sun, and he's pretty much the guy who ends up schooling all of us with the with catches. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about your fishing background, and then we'll start taking questions. Pretty much, I'll let you guys. You know what? Go ahead and ask your questions whenever you get a question, and we'll see how the show flows that way. Okay.
Great.
Cool. All right, Brian. First of all, correct me with the Instagram title. Your Instagram name.
Okay, it is at BrianLikesToFish.
Perfect.
Easy.
Perfect.
I like to fish. Brian
cool.
likes to
Yeah,
fish.
Brian likes to fish. Okay, cool. There you go, guys. Okay. Yeah. I did have technical issues, Captain Dan. I forgot to plug in a second camera. So let's see. All right. I think we're pretty much ready to go. I see Graham. I see Kyle. I see Doug. I see Kevin in the house. What's up, Kevin? And Captain Dan. Cool. All right. So real quick, let's get started. I'm going to switch over to full screen for Brian, so you guys can see his setup. It's actually the first interview I've had with somebody sitting on their actual boat, so that's cool. Okay, let's see. Full screen. Wait, there we go. I see Salty just jumped on. Hey, y'all. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to jump into it a little bit. So I'm going to ask you the question that's on everybody's mind, because I feel at this point that everybody asks you this question, right? When you show up with the Cool Baits on the side of your boat.
Right.
Do you work for Cool Baits? That's probably exactly how they phrase it, right?
Yes, a lot of people think that I either own Cool Baits or I'm an employee of Cool Baits, and it's kind of true. I am good friends with one of the brothers. Two brothers own Cool Bait, Sean and Justin. Two really fishy guys. They know their stuff. They grew up in San Diego just like us, and they know the local waters. And I met Justin, and I've become really good friends with him over the past few years. And I actually go over there once a week or so, and go there and assemble Cool Baits and package them and help him with anything that needs to be done, basically. It seems like I've put a million eyeballs on those things, and I'm over there all the time assembling Cool Baits. And I think the best thing about going over there is I get to talk to Justin, who's an awesome fisherman, and while I'm there for 3 or 4 hours, we talk fish back and forth. And it's cool. A great time. So me and Justin are good friends, and that's my association with Cool Bait.
That's cool. That makes
And
sense.
I guess you could say I'm kind of like an ambassador or pro staff to them because I know a lot of you guys come up to me and I like to talk to you guys about cool baits and they even hand some out if you see me out there.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of like a pro staff or ambassador to the
That makes
company.
sense. But you don't only fish cool baits. I know that.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I fish all kinds of
Cool.
lures. I
Perfect.
do, pool baits is probably my go-to
Yeah.
because I love the underspins. But no, I fish a variety of baits.
Perfect. Cool. All right. So I just kind of felt like we had to go over that first because it's like the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, because there's a cool bait sticker right here.
That's all good. Okay. So do you have your drink?
I did.
All right. Let's do this. All right. So you got it's become a little bit of a tradition of the show now to open the beverage. Oh, you bought oh, that's a nice one. Cool. All right. We're gonna do your best.
Mine is.
Your best
Okay,
opening.
go ahead. Oh boy. I'm gonna get real close to the mic.
Go for it.
Oh,
Oh.
it's a choke.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Get extra points for the bottle cap dropping. That was good. That was good. Extra points for the bottle cap.
Oh, and
Cool.
by the way, it's for anybody who's wondering what this is, Topo Chico. It's bottled water from Mexico, so
Let's go.
who knows water better than Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So, cheers.
That's awesome. Is it carbonated?
It is.
Cool. That's good.
First time I've ever had it.
Oh, nice. All right, here we go. Here's my I think this is a Dr. Cherry Sutter or something like that. Here we go. That hiss was short. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Okay, so here we go. Now we're gonna go full interview mode. Okay.
Can I say a shout out to everybody?
Of course,
What's up,
yeah. Yeah, of course.
MFC? Hey, it's weird being on this side. I'm usually watching you, and now, heck, look, I'm on the screen. Holy mackerel, this is awesome. So, thanks for inviting me, Roman. I hope I don't bore everybody. I hope you guys take some knowledge home from this. And what's up?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I know we do interact a little bit on the water when we go fishing, but it's not the same. We don't have full on conversations, right? It's just kind of like we're fishing, right?
I see you in passing out there.
Yeah,
I watch
exactly.
you from a distance.
Right? Exactly.
All you guys.
It's like the updates. Oh, another one. Oh,
I
another
feel like
one.
I know you, but I don't because
Right?
I know you from fishing.
That's awesome. Cool. Okay. So, do you remember the first time you went fishing, or the first time you thought, "Oh, this is cool. I want to get into fishing"?
Yes. Okay. So I grew up in San Diego. I've lived here my entire life. I actually grew up in the town of Ramona, which is about 40 minutes inland from the beach. So growing up in Ramona, we don't have a lot of places to fish. We've got like one local pond, Dos Picos Pond,
Right.
and it's really like a little bluegill pond. So I didn't have, as a kid, a lot of access to fishing. So really the only time I went fishing as a young kid was when my dad would take me and my grandpa on vacations, and we would gravitate usually towards water, and we would go once a year down to Mexico, and we would camp in our motorhome on the beach, and we do some surf fishing and fishing on the rocks, and that was probably my first real fishing experience. I can remember going into Mexico and going to the rocks when it was low tide, and we'd round up all these mussels off the rocks, like a long clam. They're a brown like long clam,
Yeah.
and we'd load those up for bait. And my grandpa would crack that thing open with a rock or something like that, and he'd have me scoop the meat out with my thumb. I don't know if you've ever done that with a mussel, but
That's cool.
it's a feeling you'll never forget. We'd scoop that out. And we put that on a hook and we throw it out in the surf, and that was like candy to fish. So I did that as a kid for a long time. And one time, my grandpa and my dad took me to LA Bay in Mexico, and we actually had a little tiny boat, and we did some yellowtail fishing.
Ooh.
And I was pretty young. I was probably maybe 8 or 10. So to me, it was actually pretty scary. I don't know why, because we were out in this little tiny 14-foot aluminum boat, and it seemed like the middle of the ocean, and we'd hook onto those big fish, and I can remember being scared, like, holy mackerel, what is on the end of that? And I always had envisions of it always being a shark for some reason.
Oh,
We'd get
yeah.
it in, and maybe after a few, I kind of relaxed and figured out, hey, these fish are pretty cool. And I can also remember a whale once coming close to the boat and thinking that thing is going to sink us. We're done. So that was one of my big memories. You know, I think I actually want to share a picture. Sorry, I didn't download it, but I
No,
want to
it's
show
all
you this
good.
picture. Um, hey, here's my cat.
Awesome.
Oh, his name's Dink, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So can you guys see that?
Oh yeah, yeah, we can.
That's that's me and my grandpa, probably in the late '80s, I
Oh,
imagine.
that's cool.
And those are two of the yellowtail we caught, the ones that I was terrified of, and that's one of my first fishing memories.
That's so cool.
And then I guess the how it transpired into where I am now. I got older, I moved out, and I moved in with two roommates, Chris and Jeremy. And my friend Chris, his cousin Alex worked in a tackle shop, and he was kind of a fisherman. And I would go down to Fiesta Island with him at night,
Oh, cool.
and I basically started out as a shore pounder. And our idea of fishing back then was we'd bring our lounge chairs and we'd get this big, I don't know if you guys have ever used these,
Oh yeah.
these big giant, we'd get the biggest ones we could find because we wanted that rod tip up so high, but we'd get these and we'd shove them in the sand. And then we just, at Mission Bay, we'd cast out as far as we could, put it in that big stand, that pole holder, and then go sit on our chair and wait for the pole to bend. And that was our idea of fishing back then. It was like lazy Sunday fishing. And I did that. I did that with those guys for a long time. And I think back then it was more about just going to the beach, having a campfire, and we'd all have our poles strung out on the beach on these holders, and we'd all be watching and waiting for them to just bend over, and then we'd sprint down there and reel in to see what we had gotten.
That's what'd you catch most of the time?
Stingrays. We were the king of stingrays.
Cool.
So, and we were a lot of smoothhound sharks because we mainly do it at night.
Yeah.
When nobody was out there, and we'd just fish a Carolina rig. And it's so weird. The bait shops would be closed, so we'd go to the grocery store for our bait, and we'd go back to the seafood department, and we'd buy whatever we thought they'd bite. We were buying just like whole shrimps, whatever. We were buying trout, all kinds of weird stuff, and anything that we could put on a hook to see if it would catch a fish.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And so after I got kind of a little more excited about fishing, living in San Diego, we have this awesome reef source. I saved up some money and I started going on the half-day boats. And I would usually go. It would take us right out to La Jolla, and I went out and I bought myself. I know Captain Dan showed his old school reel. I got to show mine. So I still have the very first the reel that I purchased that was expensive at the time.
Nice.
And believe it or not, I don't know if you guys can see the scale or size of this thing, but it's a Shimano bait runner. I know Coach is looking at this thing. He's probably seen a million of these. It's a Shimano bait runner. And when I went to buy this thing, there was three different models. There was a 3500, a 4500, and a 6500, and they were all like $10 within each other. And me not knowing anything, I looked and I was like, well, man, for $20 more, why would I get the small one? I'm just gonna get the biggest thing they sell. And I bought this huge thing, and believe it or not, this was my spotty reel. This is my everything reel.
That's awesome.
And I would always have big game, 30-pound on it, no matter what I was fishing. I could fish into the littlest dink spotties, but this was my giant go-to reel. Which now I look back at it, and I was like, how did I even catch a fish with this thing?
Kevin's saying best spinning reel of all time for soaking. I think I have one of. Wayne says I think I have one of those. Hey, do you want to turn your camera up a little bit? I'm missing your hat.
Okay, is that better?
Perfect.
There.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
okay.
That's good.
So,
that's awesome.
I think I got this thing because back in that day, when you went on the half-day boats, when you rented a rod and reel, like this was the smaller version of this is what they gave everybody. It was like the old faithful. I think everybody had this thing, and I think it was because it had this bait runner feature on the back. And when you hooked a live bait up to it, you could feed out the line, and then when a fish got hit, it made this crazy sound. It was zzz, and you would wait 5 seconds, and you would flip this bait runner over and then set the hook. And everybody was using these on the boat. All the rental reels were this. So you constantly heard that buzzing noise on these things. And I think that's what turned me onto this reel. But that's the first major purchase reel I made. And I went out to the store after buying that, and I made a major purchase of this rod, which I'm sure Coach and Dan are. And this is a old school Seeker rod.
It's Seeker, yeah.
It's American Series, and this was my everything rod. I fished for spotties with this thing, believe it or not. This was everything. If I was going to Dos Picos Pond for bluegills, this was it.
Oh.
I can't imagine what people were thinking about this guy out there, lakes. No matter where I went, this was my setup. So I fished this thing forever.
Lake monsters, yeah. That's some Jeremy Wade stuff right there.
I look back at it, and I can't believe I even caught a fish on that thing. So
Wayne says, I caught albacore with that reel. I think that one.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
It ranged from albacore to dink spotties and everything in between that reel.
Oh, Cal just jumped on here, and I think he missed the beginning. He said, "So, is there an affiliation with Cool Bait Lures?"
Yeah, you have to watch it in the beginning.
Yeah, watch the replay. We covered that right off the bat, Cal.
To skip forward a little bit, okay. Yeah. So I got off the half-day boats, and I kind of did what everybody started doing. I started going to Seaforth and renting that little red and blue skiffs they rent. You can rent them for the day for $50 or $60. And I did that for a long time. I can remember renting that thing with this pole, and it would have like a bait tank that you would tow behind it, and you'd pull over the bait barge, and they'd give you a little baby scoop of bait. And for $60, you could take that thing out, usually be in front of a split. And we would, once again, all I did was fish a Carolina rig. It was like, I don't know why, but for like the first 5 years of fishing, it was just dropping baits on the bottom.
That's interesting.
I would just pull somewhere, we'd throw that concrete wad they give you out as an anchor.
Yeah.
And then drop the bait, and then just sit back. There was no...
Oh, even on the skiff, you're still doing the same thing?
Even on the skiff, I hadn't learned anything yet. There was nobody to teach me anything. This is kind of when YouTube was getting started, but it wasn't like now. You don't have the platforms. It was all talking to people, going to the tackle shops to figure things out. And I mean, this is probably like early 2000s, I think. And then my son was born. And that kind of changed a lot of things. So I get a little slow down to fishing for a while. But when he got old enough, about 4 years old, I decided, hey, I'm going to go rent one of those skiffs and see if he's fishing.
That's cool.
And so I took him out, and he caught on right away. I mean, you guys know him now. He's a fishing machine. He's actually right now, he's at the golf course fishing.
Oh, nice.
So he's a fishing machine. But anyway, so we rented the skiff with him, and I didn't know what to teach him. I honestly, we were fishing Carolina rigs and squid and whatever we found at the grocery store, but we were catching stingrays and it was fun. And then I was spending so much money renting these things, so it ended up like every weekend, $60 a weekend. So I went out and I bought my very first boat, which was a 1982 Sears Game Fisher 14-foot. And if you ever seen like a John boat, like those aluminum boats, it looks just like that, but fiberglass. And it was made by Sears.
like Sears, like the tools?
Yeah, like
nice.
Sears.
That's awesome.
Sears Game Fisher.
That's cool.
And it came with a little 15 horsepower motor on the back, and me and my son fished that thing every weekend like crazy. We loved that thing. And then one day, we used to carry around this Plano tackle box. It's like one of those big tackle boxes that you open up and has all those trays come out.
Oh, yeah.
And you look down in there and you can see everything in there. And my son used to look into that thing, and we had some lures in there, but we never had luck with them. And one day he's like, hey, I want to fish he wanted to fish a crocodile lure, which is like a little spoon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not going to catch anything on that. And what happened was I tied it on his pole, his ugly stick pole, and he threw that thing out, and the very first cast he ever casted a lure that I know of, I think this is his first lure fish, he caught a barracuda.
Oh, nice.
So once that happened, it was pretty much a game changer for me and him, seeing that, hey, lures do work. So since then, I would say for the next 10 years, we've been only fishing lures primarily, unless we're targeting shark or stingrays or something. But that moment right there when he casted that crocodile lure was like something clicked at both of our heads, even though he was young, that, hey, we're going to start getting into this lure fishing thing. So we started combing. We'd go to back then. I don't think maybe Turner's was around, but you would go to Walmart or Sports Mart, and we'd go into those departments and I don't know why we'd always go straight to the clearance bin and we'd try to find something that looked like we might catch a fish on.
That's a good.
And I'd say 90% of the stuff we got nothing on, but we kept trying and trying and trying. And over the years, we've kind of weeded through lures, figuring out what works for us, and that's basically where all this started.
That's crazy. I mean, that's cool. Like, and so all this is bait fishing at this point. Yeah, because
so we do both. Like tomorrow, I think we're going to Sam City Lake. So I do love to do largemouth fishing. But my love for fishing is spotted bay bass, bay fishing. I love the bay fishing.
Awesome. That's cool. All right. So what's okay? So you got your first boat. You discovered that you don't need actual bait to catch them. You can use artificials.
Right.
Once you what was your next breakthrough, or like your next?
Okay, so we kind of outgrew the game fisher. I mean, you can only do so much in a 14-foot boat, and this thing was rickety. It was a 30-year-old boat when we got it, and it's probably been through 10 owners. Everybody had kind of their ways with it, So it was pretty rough. So I knew there was fish out in La Jolla, and the game fisher's not going out to La Jolla. There's no way. Maybe some guys would captain that thing out there, but not me. So up the street, I saw a center console boat on the side of the road for sale for $1,000.
Wow!
And you could imagine what condition this thing was in for $1,000. So I looked at it. The guy said it ran. We started it up, brought it home, and that was kind of the moment to where we could explore new areas. So we were able to take that thing out to La Jolla.
Oh, that's cool.
Get in mind, this was a 1987, I think, Bayliner, 19-foot center console, really old, and did not run good at all. So when I got that boat, we were able to get out there, but half the time I was working on the boat to try to keep it going, and the other half was fishing. So it was good to get out there, but that boat was rough. I remember going out to the kelp in that thing, and it would stall out on the way out there. And we figured out if I have my son sit in the back and squeeze the little primer ball, there's a little primer ball that gives it fuel, I would have to be driving the boat while he would be in the back squeezing that primer ball all the way till we got to La Jolla just to keep the thing running to get there. So that boat was an adventure. I'm glad we started out with that. So when we did get our new boat, he really appreciated it.
Yeah, he's like, wait, is
that funny thing to add to that too is I had that boat, and then I was looking through Craigslist, and there was like the exact same boat for sale, and it was cheap too. I think it was $1,500, and I bought that. So I had two of the exact same boats.
Oh.
And I took them and I combined them into one super boat. I took all the good parts off each one. I made one boat that out of all the parts from both, I made a kind of functional boat. It didn't have reverse, which was a nightmare. I don't know if you guys have tried driving a boat onto a trailer.
Wow, one try.
There's a high wind, and that thing would come in there sideways, and with no reverse, you are dedicated. There's no slowing down. It's a one-shot deal. So I think that boat made me really good at loading my boat onto the trailer, not having reverse.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Kind of forced you to get better at the one shot. Jeez.
Yeah, and it had like a cable steering in it. And if you didn't hold on to the steering wheel, if you just let off a little bit, the steering wheel would spin real quick and the motor would turn and it would go into a turn automatically. So you had to be holding on to that steering wheel of that boat at all times. Because if you took your hand off it, it would just whip around automatically. It was a crazy boat. But we had a lot of good times on that old boat.
That's awesome. That's super good. Let's see. So when you're on your we'll call it the second boat, the Frankenstein boat, or the did it have a name, or was it just
super boat?
Super boat. When you're on the super boat, you're already fishing primarily artificials. At what point did you feel like spotties was your thing or bay bass was your thing?
Okay, so we would go out to the ocean and we weren't very good at it. At that point we had gotten pretty good at bay fishing. We knew how to catch fish. So it was a lot of going out there and not catching fish all day and thinking, man, we could be in the bay right now, relaxing, where it's nice and calm and slaying it in the bay. So not to say that we didn't have a lot of good times in La Jolla. We caught a lot of fish out there. We primarily fished for calicos because we're bass fishermen. We like to fish for bass, and but the bay was always calling me back just because we're in a little boat and we're getting beat up. We were still having fun, but we were getting beat up. And then when we got back, we'd come into that jetty and you hit that 5-mile-an-hour zone, and it's just like you're in a lake. It's like, I can relax. You know what I mean? I'm not getting beat up. So the bay for us always had the calling of relaxed fishing, I guess.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. I see Wayne's over here saying, "Y'all taking notes?" I hear a lot of good trivia questions. Super good.
Okay, super good. Let me finish this background story.
Yeah, go for it.
With my current boat. So how I got to this. So it's kind of a funny story. Justin at Cool Baits needed me to take a tote. I guess he was running out of Cool Baits at the Fred Hall show in Long Beach, and that would be not this year, but the year before, 2019, I guess. So I go to his house, I pick up a big thing of Cool Baits, and I drive it up there for him. And I get in there, and I'm walking around the Fred Hall fishing show and looking at everything, and I see this boat.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't even thinking about buying a boat, no, not even in my mind. I had been looking at boats, dreaming of boats. I was looking at Rangers and Makos and dreaming of one day of owning one of those awesome boats. And I'm walking through the Fred Hall Fishing Show, and I see this boat, and it has a little steps. I get up on it, and I'm walking around it, and I instantly, it's like love at first sight. It has this huge casting deck up here, has a huge deck in the back. It's got this sweet trolling motor, fish finder, everything my boat didn't have. And I was sitting in the thing for a long time, and I don't know if they send the best salespeople in the world to the Fred Hall Fishing Shows, because that's where I think most of the guys' impulse buys are.
Yeah.
So I sat in there, and the guy was a great salesman. He was going through it all. This is kind of a new model boat. It's a Bayliner Element, and basically this is like I don't know if I could call it like an economy model of Rangers and Makos, but it's probably about half the price of one.
Oh, cool.
Rangers like a top of the line. Those things are awesome. Same with Makos. They're super durable. This boat's been awesome to me, but they're about half the price. And I didn't even know this boat existed. So I saw it. I said, hey, that thing's kind of in my price range. And he's like, well, we offer a 10-year loan on it.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, oh, I was thinking 10 years. And he got me to the point where he was telling me what the payment was. And it's like $250 a month for this boat. And I'm thinking, I spend probably that much on two-stroke oil and parts just keeping my old boat going. So he kind of went with that. He sold me on this boat, and I wasn't going to buy it. And when I'm walking away, he's like, hey, you got a trade-in? And I'm like, yeah, but you probably won't want it once you see it. And I showed him actually just pictures on my phone of it. And he goes, what would you want for that trade-in? And I said, just jokingly, I can't even believe it came out. I said, how about $8,000?
Oh, wow.
And this is a boat I bought for $1,500 that I've kind of.
The super
and
boat.
he goes, he goes, I don't think I can give you that, but I'll give you $6,000 unseen. And I was like,
score.
Well, that makes this decision a little easier because, I had so many problems with it. And, and trading it into a dealer is a little different than selling it to somebody on Craigslist. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
They went over it, they gave me that, and the rest is history. I walked out on an impulse buy buying a boat.
It seems like you got a good deal, though. Jeez. That's so good. Wayne is asking, how long is the boat?
22 foot.
22 foot. There you go. Yeah, it's a perfect base setup for sure, and even La Jolla setup. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a good inshore bay boat.
Yeah. So what's your what do you have any specific fishing goals that you set for yourself or your son?
Yeah, we're always trying to this goal. You guys know clearly that Kevin introduced that stupid float sniper, and every time I go out there, I've got to throw that thing for half an hour. So my fishing goal is one, following Salty's path and crankbaits. I know he likes the crankbait, and I also want to get good at the jerkbait. Those are two things that I've skimped on over the years, and I think they're producers. So fishing goal this summer, get good with the crankbait, get good with the jerkbait.
Perfect. Wayne's impressed by a 22-foot boat in your garage, And Cal said if he did that, he would be dead right now. Referring to impulse buying.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have a live well? Asked Jet.
I have two.
Ooh,
One in
two
the
live
front
wells.
and one in the back. Yeah.
There you go. Sweet. Oh yeah, because you use them for the
And I
bass
never
tournaments,
use them.
right?
The only time I ever use those is if we're tournament fishing,
Yeah.
and I keep my fish in there. But I never buy live bait anymore.
Okay. Cool. And then Day One says, "What's up? What's up, Paige? Welcome." He asks, "How far have you taken the boat out?"
You know, I've never taken it further than I can't see the shore. So
Okay.
I'm not the type that I'm not a tuna fisherman. Let me tell you that right now. That's Kevin's deal.
That's awesome.
Got tuna questions. That's his deal. I am a bass fisherman. That's what I like to fish. I don't even have a reel. Like the only reel I could catch a tuna on, I'd have to bring this old guy out of the fire.
Yes.
I'm not a tuna fisherman, so I stay inshore. So I stay where the kelp's at, and I stay in the bay.
Kevin's like, you could do a bluefin trip. That's good.
Hey, Kevin, if you want a captain, I'll take you out, and I'll catch this thing, hopefully.
Oh, it's on. He's like, come on, man. That's good. So it sounds like there's a trip in the works right there. Let's see. Fishing San Diego asked, what kind of boat is that? What size tank? We'll do a couple more boat questions, and then we'll move on to the...
So not to get too much into the boat, but it's a Bayliner Element. It's kind of a newer model. I think they've only been making them for 4 years or something like that. So you don't see a lot of them out there. Usually when guys get a boat like this or a Ranger or Mako, they hold on to them for a long time. So these, I've seen about 5 of them out on the water, but it's a Bayliner Element, 22 foot. It's got a front rear live well. I think it's 35 gallons in the back, maybe 45, and the front one's a little bit smaller. I don't know what that is, maybe 20.
Sweet. Awesome. I had to put that into my search field so I can look at it later.
They have 3 models. They have 3 models, I think.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we got the beginnings of your bass journey, your bass fishing journey. We got your current goals, which are basically like your future goals, like what you're working on. Okay, so guys, if you guys have spotty or bay fishing questions, now's the time. Other than that, we're gonna start. Brian made a list. Kevin asked one more boat question. What's the power on it? The power on your boat?
150 Mercury.
Cool. There you go. Awesome. I think he's like sizing you up to take you offshore.
Who is that?
Kevin, yeah. I'll take him up on it. All right, cool.
It's got 100. I know it has a 165-mile range. Not that I would ever do that, but that's the range of gas. That's the fuel. It'll take us out 165 miles. So I guess 80 in, 80 back.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. Jet asks, what's your personal best spotty?
Oh, so did you guys ever look on my Instagram or see the picture of that fish that it was probably, I don't know, 12 years ago? It's a fish I'm holding up and my son's standing next to it. He's got like a SpongeBob life jacket on. I never got the weight on it, but it was a monster. And I caught it when I had the Game Fisher boat. And I caught it, if you guys know the channel right in front of SeaWorld, there's a little dock that's a pumping station right there.
Oh, yeah.
And I cast it out into that, and this thing hit it, got it in a boat, and I'm going to say, I had to guess, it was close to a 3-pound spotty. But I don't have an official weight on it.
That's awesome, though.
Biggest official weight, I think, is 2.49.
Oh, that's good. When was that?
It would have been several years ago. It was in San Diego Bay. I don't remember the exact time. I think it might have been a winter fish. And you know what? Believe it or not, on our outing on Saturday, I caught a 2.4, which I think was my 3rd biggest. So
that's pretty good.
That was a good fish. And I have a picture of that holding up the scale of 2.4 pounds. It was a 16 and a half. But sometimes you can catch a 16-inch fish, and the thing weighs. Let me get my cat out of here. This is Dink. He's going overboard.
He's like, why are you hanging out on my boat for so long?
Where was I? Oh yeah. So sometimes you'll catch a 16-inch spotty, and the thing only weighs 1.5 pounds, and sometimes you'll catch a 16-inch spotty, and they're over 2 pounds. So sometimes you find those ones with a big gut. Sometimes you find the ones with a big head and a skinny body.
Yeah.
So The fat ones are hard to find.
You gotta get the right
It's
combination
not
of the
so
two.
hard to find
Yeah,
a 16-inch spotty, but it's hard to find a 2-pound plus 16-inch spotty.
that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Wayne's over here jumping onto the party. He says that's plenty of range, and then Kevin's like, yeah. I see.
Oh,
J90 asks. He's got a couple questions here. It says, "I have COVID-19. Will fishing speed up my recovery?" I don't know. That's not proven by science, so I'm not sure.
No.
And then
salt air is always good for you.
yeah, right. And then he also asks, "Tube baits for spotties?" Question mark.
Yes, tube baits do work. So only time I fish a tube bait generally is when I'm trying to drop right down on something. If I come right over a rock pile and I want to drop straight down on it, or if I pull up to a dock and there's a certain pylon I want to fish, the tube baits are great for casting and letting them drop straight down to a target you're trying to hit.
That makes sense.
And those baits are crazy. You've got to keep your eye on them because a lot of the times those things are going through the water like this, and they'll get hit on the way down a lot. And you don't even realize you have a fish on there until it hits the bottom because it's still kind of slack. So you got to, when you're fishing tube baits, you really have to have your rod in your hand and you have to be paying attention because on the drop they get hit a lot.
Yep. And we're talking.
I don't fish a lot of tube baits, but when I'm targeting a specific bullseye target, I'll fish those.
Yeah, cool. We're talking tube baits in general, guys. Let's see. What else we have? Kevin asked if you service your engine yourself, service your boat yourself.
Okay, so it's only got 90 hours on it, so
nice.
I changed the engine oil on myself. Murky made it really simple. I mean, it couldn't be easier to do. It's coming up to have its 100-hour service, and I will probably do most of it, but they recommend replacing the water pump, and that's probably one thing. I used to replace a water pump on my old boat because if I broke it, whatever. But this brand new motor, I'll probably let a professional mechanic change the water pump on it. But I'll change the fluids and spark plugs.
Cool. That makes sense. Coach's got a question. He asks, not where the spots are, but what makes a good spot?
I'm assuming he's thinking for spotties.
Yeah, for spotties.
Okay. So spotties, I mean, really they're all over the bay. When I'm looking for a good spot, or when I'm trying to find a new spot, and Roman does the same thing, we're looking at the fish finder a lot. And if you have a fish finder, that's awesome. We're looking for an elevation change. Mm-hmm. So if it goes from 15 feet to 17 feet, where it creates a drop off, a lot of the fish like to hang out below that drop off. So if you have a fish finder, look for those drop offs and look for almost any type of structure. If you see rocks, eelgrass, the spotties are around them. And also we all know that they hang out at the docks. So any type of structure is a good place to start.
Awesome. That's perfect. Cool. That's a good way to put it too. Okay, let's see. Fishing San Diego says, what pound line do you use for the bays?
Okay, I'm gonna go right back to that. One question for answer that.
Yeah, go for it.
Another thing to add, I don't know how much you can see on the kayaks, but on the boat, when I'm standing up, if you have a good pair of sunglasses, you can actually look in the water and you'll see dark patches and light patches and dark patches, and that's an indication that there's probably patches of eelgrass everywhere. Yeah. And those are awesome areas. There's probably most of my fishing in the bay is done in areas where there's nice green eelgrass. So if you're going around the bay, you don't have a fish finder, a good way to find the fish is look for those patches. Look, if the water's clear enough and the sun's out and you can see those patches, that's a good way to find halibut, and that's also a good way to find spotties.
Nice.
Patchy areas.
Yeah, patchy areas. I would agree with that. Yeah, because the sand will reflect light more, so it looks lighter, and then you have the darker areas, which would be the eelgrass. And then if you snag some of that eelgrass, just make sure it's green, not brown.
Yep.
Cool.
Anything decaying eelgrass, they don't hang out. Okay, so back to the question. Was it on what line do I use?
What pound line, or yeah. If you want, you want to just go into a quick setup, or like your setups.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do setups.
Setups. Okay, so this is what I used to fish with, right, guys? This
yeah,
was
perfect.
my go-to back in the day. This right here is my go-to now. So you can see the difference here. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but
Oh yeah.
I go to, so what I use is this is my favorite setup. Trust me, I didn't start out with this. I started out with the ugly stick and, you know, the real rod combos, but I've kind of worked my way over the years. Every Christmas, everybody knows what I want. I want a new reel every birthday. So that's why I've got a lot of this gear, is slowly upgrading.
Nice.
So if you're new to spotty fishing, I don't recommend going out and spending $450 on a spotty rod. You can catch spotties on, you know, the cheaper, I don't want to call them Walmart combos, but, you know, Walmart combos. And it's a good place to start out. So you go get yourself, I like to fish a 6'9" to 7'3" rod. And I prefer a little longer. I like the 7'3" because it'll give me a little bit more on the cast. And I usually fish a medium heavy. This is a Shimano Stratic reel. It's rated for saltwater. If you're going to do a lot of saltwater fishing, that's something you want to look at. Make sure that you get a saltwater rated reel. You can fish the Sedona or the non-salt weighted reels, but these will last you probably twice as long, maybe even longer than that. So if it's in the budget, try to get a saltwater rated one if you're going to be fishing the bays. And when you go to the little more expensive ones, they have like 11 bearings in them. They're very smooth. You can feel a lot of what's going on the bottom with these high-end reels. So what I end up doing is I have on this one I have a 10-pound braid.
Cool.
And most everybody else I know fishes with 20, maybe 15, maybe even 30. I try to get away with as light as I think I can possibly get away with. That's just me. I try to get that extra 5-10 feet on every cast, so that my strike zone is much bigger. So I try to get away with as light as I think I can. And I work with my drag a lot. I don't have my drag buttoned way down. Once you start fishing ultralight, if you guys do that, and not that this is my ultralight rod, but once you start fishing ultralight, you'll notice that you're going to feel the bottom. It's a lot more sensitive the lighter lines you go to. So with spotty fishing, it's all about feeling that you're on the bottom. So with this setup, I've got a 1/4 ounce cool bait underspin with a MC swim bait. This is like my bread and butter go-to. I love fishing the underspin, not just because I'm friends with the owner, but because I really like fishing this bait. I think it gets a lot of fish. The underspin, which is this part underneath, if you haven't fished an underspin, it's the same thing as like a lead jig head, but they've added this underspin to it that creates a flash while it's spinning through the water.
Yep.
And then I like to fish a 4-inch or 3.8-inch swim bait, non-weedless. I like the non-weedless. We'll get into non-weedless, but and I also like to go with like what mostly everybody does. I go with natural colors. My favorite color, you guys have heard me say it a million times, is the dark greens. This is an MC swim bait. I think they call it Christmas tree.
Oh, cool. See that? Yeah, with the red dot. Yep.
And I think recently I've gotten really into a long fluorocarbon leader also. So I've got 10-pound braid and an 8 to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. And I usually make this thing about 5 feet, 6 feet. Cool. And by the end of the day, it's probably 4 feet long.
Okay.
I initially start out with about a 6-foot leader. And I don't know if it's spotties or line shy. I mean, they pretty much strike. They pretty much strike at almost anything.
I hit the big A-rig.
But yeah, but I try to get every advantage I can.
Yeah, so that makes sense too. Yeah.
A rod with a sensitive tip, and I use my fluorocarbon leader, and I try to every little step you take gives your chances that much more.
I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like you're piling up the odds basically. Yeah.
Piling up the odds is good. So when I go with my 7'3" rod and I get that extra 10 feet, my strike zone is actually 10 feet longer than it would be if I didn't have that setup. So I want that. When I say strike zone, a strike zone is when I cast it out there, hits the water, and then I let that thing sink to the bottom. And while you're doing that, the braid is awesome because you can actually watch that braid. And when it hits the bottom, you'll see it kind of go slack. Yeah. So you know you're on the bottom. And at that point, when you know you're on the bottom, you give it a couple light reels, and you'll feel that lure coming across the bottom, and it'll come up off the bottom a little bit, and that's right where you want to be. And if you slow down your pace a little bit, you'll feel it come back down to the bottom. And while you're reeling it in, you want to try to find that speed, which varies with current and depth. You want to find that speed where you're constantly feeling the bottom. Because if you're fishing this and you're probably 2-3 feet up in the water column, you're probably not going to get nearly many as bites as if you're all the way down the bottom going slow and low, as Paige says.
I like how the chat kind of goes quiet because this is some really good stuff right there. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because and now I'm like reverse analyzing my technique now. And when I fish the Ned rig, I do that because I have to, right? But I don't do that with the swim bait. I just end up like cranking on it.
The spotties are weird. They're not like the calicos. The calicos like to hang up mid-water column. You know, you can get them up high, but the spotties, you might be able to pull off one mid-water column, but if you want to pull out a lot of numbers, got to be down on the bottom. That's probably the if you want to get a lot of numbers, you want to try to get those big fish. If you're not feeling, once you start feeling that bottom,
yeah,
it feels weird when you're reeling in and you're not on the bottom. Like you'll instantly know. So the only way you're going to learn that is time on the water.
Yeah.
When I first started fishing with an ugly stick, I mean, those rods are awesome, but if you have a huge rod like this and you're out there trying to fish spotties, they may not have enough sensitivity on the tip to actually feel the bottom. So you may not know if you're on the bottom or not. And if you're dragging it and you're going actually too slow, sometimes you'll be pulling up wads of eelgrass, and that's you'll have to adjust your speed for that also, because eelgrass, you want to be directly above. If this is the eelgrass, you want to be directly above that eelgrass. So your bait is going to hit that eelgrass. You're going to feel it, and you're going to change your wind to try to keep that speed where it's right above that eelgrass.
That's perfect. That's that dovetails right into Hop Tag's question. Do you swim your bait right above the grass? Yeah, it's the same thing. You want to be whatever you feel. You want to give a little bit more, so you're off that structure, and then right. Super
right.
Cool.
So it doesn't matter if it's the sand or rocks or eelgrass. You're gonna feel something. So when you feel something, change your pace a little bit to try to keep it so it's tapping that. You don't want to get caught up in it, but you want to keep that bait right above it.
Makes sense. Mark G.
And the only way you're gonna learn that is time on the water.
All right, cool. Mark G has a question. He asks, "Does tide swings really matter for fishing around docks?"
Holy mackerel! I can't believe somebody brought that up. Okay, so I thought somebody would bring that up, and I made myself a Roman chart.
I can put you full screen. That's awesome.
Okay, so
Captain Dan, you gave Captain Dan a run for his money on the preparation.
Okay, so tide, yes, it is so important. It's besides being on the bottom, it's probably the second most important thing. And for guys, I know Roman has explained this a few times. We've talked about this on the show a few times, but for people that are new and hopefully this is their first show, this is a tide wave. And right up here, I've drawn time of day. This is high tide. And this is low tide, also slack tide. So let's say you head out at 8 in the morning, which is about right here.
Yep.
The tide is going to be going out at this point, which means everything's rushing out into the ocean. The water's lowering. And at that time, when the tide is moving like that, the fish are turning their heads, looking upstream and waiting for bait fish or whatever's going to go by. Mm-hmm. They're opportunists, so they're waiting for. That's like ringing the dinner bell. The tide going out or coming in. That's when they know stuff's in the water's moving, stuff's happening, things are floating by, and they sit there and they wait. And when something appears, they hammer it. So tide is a huge thing. So if you're here from, let's say 8 and then till 11. You've got all this tide swing in here. Let's just say it's a 4-foot tide swing, and that's a pretty big one. So the water's really rushing out. But when you get to 11:30 to, let's say 12:30, there's this period where the tide's doing nothing, and we call that slack tide, where tide's not going out, it's not coming in, it's just kind of stagnant. Yeah, and this time bracket right here, this is when you take a drink, you eat your lunch, you take your gear, you retie some lures,
You make a big
you
move.
reassess,
Yeah.
you make your big move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the time period when fishing is going to be pretty slow. Not saying you won't catch a fish, but when you hit slack tide, you'll be hot all day, and then all of a sudden the fishing will just die. And it's because you've hit slack tide. And that's usually only for an hour or two if you're lucky. So that's a good time to take your break, put on your sunscreen, make your big move, do whatever you're going to do, and relocate yourself to 1 o'clock when that tide changes. And let's say we have a 3 foot tide swing, and then the fishing's going to be back on again.
That's awesome.
So
and
I
that's
think besides the bottom, this is the second most important time. I know you don't usually plan your fishing day around tide. You know, you get there when you get there, and you hope that it's a high tide, or I hope that it's a good tide swing, but it doesn't always work out that way. So, but yes, if you go on the night before, look at where the tides is, you know when the fishing's going to be hot. So if you're planning on getting there at noon and it's slack tide, that's a good time to get to your spot and set up, but don't be discouraged if nothing's biting and bail because, you know, I got there for an hour, I haven't got a bite. Wait till that tide swings.
You might be in slack. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we say the MMFC, it's on. It's on right now.
It's on, that's right. That's awesome. And also just for you guys, there's also a slack tide that happens at the peak. Right. So
yeah, and that what I drew is
awesome.
Like a perfect roller coaster tide.
Yeah.
A lot of the time the tide is more of a gradual outgoing and a gradual income. It's not always like the big roller coaster tide. That's what you're looking for though.
Yeah.
You want a big in, big out, but believe it or not, you don't want too big. Like if there's a 7 foot tide swing or a really big one like that, when the tide is really moving too much, it stirs up the whole bottom and stirs up a bunch of junk.
Oh, yeah.
And I've found that a big tide swing, like 8 foot, is almost as bad as slack tide, I think, because the fish kind of hunker down and there's so much junk, they don't know what to do.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It's sand. So sometimes a tide swing that's too big could be just as bad as slack tide.
Perfect. All right, we're going to catch up on some questions really quick before we move on. Let's see. Wayne says fishing from a boat definitely has an advantage over spotty fishing because of Brian's technique. Cool. What weight lure do you like? Asks Jesse.
Okay, Jesse, awesome question. So it depends. So like I showed you the tide chart, and if I have a 4 foot tide swing, which is a pretty good tide swing, if I throw out, let's say, a quarter ounce bait, it may not make its way all the way to the bottom, or it will, and it takes time, and I don't quite feel the bottom enough because it's moving diagonally, and I don't want it to do that. I want to be able to control that lure. So depending on the tide, and also with you guys in the kayak, depending on the wind and everything, I like to throw in a low tide situation, quarter ounce or 3/8. I would say if I was going to have to pick one, 3/8 is my go-to. And then if there's a big tide swing or a lot of wind and I'm not feeling the bottom and it's not getting down there, I go to the 1/2 ounce.
Nice.
But for spotties, I usually don't go over 1/2 ounce.
Oh, awesome.
That's about as big as I fish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When you fish for sand bass, I go bigger.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're deeper.
Yeah. And
you're dragging it. But for spotties, I would say if you're going to pick one, go with the 3/8.
Perfect. That's awesome. Cool. Okay. I'm going to catch up real quick with the rest of the questions and the shout outs because let's see. Erin's in here. What up, Erin? Welcome. Oh yeah, she says brings good news from Ryan, still in Alaska, doing great. Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Erin, for updating us with that. Okay, Wayne says got our sport fishing calendar because it's a tide chart on it. Oh yeah, get our sport fishing calendar because it has a tide chart on it. Nice. Good job. Graham says back to the boat real quick. Is that a F18 element?
No, it's a F21. It's the bigger one.
Cool. It's a F21 element, Graham. Cool. And then HopTac says, I'm heading to Catalina Island in the morning. Any pointers?
Okay, so if Kevin's still on there, that's a Kevin question.
Yeah, that's a Kevin question, yeah.
So I'm the guy that's going to answer spotty questions and some calico and sand bass and anything related to it.
Yeah, we'll defer that question to Kevin. So let's go with Salty Dangler's question. His question is, what gear ratios do you use the most on your reels?
Oh, see, I have when I go out, I take 6 to 9 fishing poles.
Oh yeah.
So it varies wildly. It depends on what bait I'm fishing. On the crankbaits, I have a little bit faster. I don't know why most people like to go the slower one, but I like to be able to control that speed. This is my go-to reel, which is my Stratic, and I think it is an 8.3 to 1. I think it's an 8.3 to 1.
Cool.
So, but I fish an array of speeds. I don't have one speed that's like my go-to, no.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, that's good. Okay. I know you have a list of things you want to cover. Let's go to the next item. What's the next thing you want to do?
Okay, so I keep hearing you guys are getting hit with treble hooks. I've seen Nate take one to the thumb. I've seen Nelson take one to the neck. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that a little bit, and maybe a way to help prevent that. So when you're fishing with those crazy treble hooks, I don't fish with treble hooks a lot, but everybody that's fished with treble hooks has been snagged at one point. I was snagged on a canoe trip. I was messing around and I got snagged in the middle of nowhere in the thumb, and there was no going to the emergency room. It was we had to man up and do it ourselves, and I grabbed the pliers and just ripped that sucker out. And when that's your only option, that's your only option. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But the way I got hit with it was, can you guys see the tip of this rod?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so when you pull in your fish and you're holding that thing up, this rod is going to be bent like this.
It's loaded.
And it's loaded. It's like a caniple. And more often than not, you grab that fish and you go to reach in and grab the lure, and that fish shakes its head and that lure comes out. And because this rod is loaded up, it's going to launch that treble hook. Yeah. And I think that is a lot of the reason you guys are getting hit with these, because you're pulling it in, trying to get that treble hook out, not realizing that that thing is under tension. Yep. And the second that thing comes out, that thing launches and it's right in your hand or your neck or your face. So my advice would be, if you're fishing with treble hooks, once you get that fish in, open up your bail and release that line so that it will not have any tension on it, and handle the fish with the bail open on your pole. Or if you're not doing that, you can just lay the pole down and put the fish in your lap and do it that way. But make sure that while you're messing with a treble hook, it's not under tension, because that's when they shoot out and that's when they nail you.
All right, so I have like a kayak specific pointer on that. Yeah, that's one of the things I teach guys when I fish with them on the water and I see them do it this way. The tendency for people to reel in the fish is to reel it all the way to the end of the rod, right? And then you have like a fish that's like hanging off of 3 inches.
For it.
Yeah, and it's like bending the rod. So when you're gonna land your spotty, since on a kayak you're so close to the water already, you bring it in and leave enough line out that you have about a rod's length of line from the tip of the rod to the actual fish, and then just bring the rod tip up, and that'll bring the fish towards you, and then you keep the fish in the water though, like it's just maybe just its head out of the water. That way your rod doesn't load up, and then you grab the line above the fish, and now you're like, there's no loading on the rod at that point. And you just kind of pull the line up and handle the fish. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, especially when you get like a mackerel or something like that, and those things are having a seizure, and they've got that treble hook in there, and you're like, what the heck am I doing with this thing? And you realize that thing's loaded up, and the next thing you know, it's a bullet coming at your face. Yep. So watch out with those things. Treble hooks hurt. Awesome.
Let's see. I see Kevin responded with buy squid if you're going to Catalina. There you go. Cool. Good tip. Nice and quick, nice and easy. I see another question here from this is Fishing San Diego asks, how long of a rod do you like for spotty fishing?
Okay, so 6'9" to 7'3" is my sweet zone.
Awesome.
My A-rig rod, that's a different setup. It is this guy right here, which for you guys that cast the A-rig, it's a big thing to cast, especially when you're trying to cast that thing into the wind. It's if you guys don't know what an A-rig is, it's this little gem right here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like basically fishing 5 lures at once. And I know Roman's a huge fan of this. Almost everybody in the MFFC is a huge fan of this. I love the A-rig. I only started fishing this, believe it or not, about maybe a year or two ago.
Okay.
And I love fishing this bait. So my fishing setup for that is a Dobbins 908, which is a 9-foot rod. And I use that because you got to put a lot of muscle into this thing to get it out. So when I'm actually casting, I'm holding this pole. It's got this long butt handle, and I can whip this thing out there. And I use a 50-pound braid on this one.
Nice.
So, and I usually tie it straight to the lure.
Yeah, me too.
Straight braid to it.
Yep.
So I have no fear of really kind of whipping this thing really hard with this 9-foot rod and getting it as far as I can get, so I can get the biggest strike zone that I can possibly get with that thing.
That's cool.
So my A-rig setup is a Tranx 300, 50-pound braid. I like to use the P-line braid.
Yep.
And I use I think it's the same A-rig almost everybody in the MFC uses, which is the Recon A-rig. And I think we like it because it's got all these flashers on here. It's like a big chandelier.
Do you know if they're still making them?
They are still making them,
right, cool.
And you can buy them. You can buy them through Cool Baits right now.
Oh, cool.
So you go to the Cool Baits webpage, and they're available on there. My A-rig setup, if you guys are interested in how I set it up, it can vary. This one right here, I've got a 3/8 Cool Bait underspin for the Stinger one in the back here, the trailer.
Yep.
And then on this particular one, I don't have an underspin, but they're Cool Bait darts. They're 1/8.
Oh, cool.
1/8 is the weight. So I use 1/8 all the way around. And something I really like to do is put one oddball on there. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
But I've got 4 matching, and then I've got one kind of oddball one on there that looks like a mackerel kind of me. So I don't know why, if it's just superstitious, but I never make it all the same. I always have one oddball on there.
That's cool.
And this, if you're interested, this is the setup that caught the 2.4 pounder on Saturday. This exact one right.
Did he eat the oddball one?
I think the big one. It was actually 2 fish at once. It was a 16 and a 15-inch spotty, and I think the 15 ate the oddball, and the big one ate the trailer one. Usually, you're always going to get him on his back.
That's cool. That's awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. While Brian queues up the next thing we want to talk about, I want to remind you guys to like the video and put your questions in the chat, because if we start to run out of questions, then we're gonna wrap this baby up. But if not, Brian's willing to stay on here for a little bit longer than 8 o'clock, because we're already at 8 o'clock. It's crazy fast. That was super fast.
Oh man, that's fast. I got so much to talk about.
Right?
Right. I still also, if you guys hang out for the entirety of the show and don't log off because I'm boring you maybe, I'm gonna unveil a secret weapon that I don't know why I've never thought of this, but it could be a game changer. So
nice.
I'm gonna unveil this weekend's gimmick lure, I guess. We're gonna see how it works.
This weekend's secret lure, awesome. I like it. Cool. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna get him on some big fish, and he's saying that your A-rig setup could catch some yellowtail.
Yeah. I throw that thing in La Jolla. I haven't got a yellowtail on it, but I've got some pretty good sized calicos on that thing.
So good. Awesome. Okay, cool. I don't see any new questions coming through.
Okay.
You wanna go off the list?
Sure. So I guess one thing that was mentioned last night, questions, was the weedless.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you fish weedless? And there's a couple different weedless ones on the market. This guy right here, everybody knows this one. This one's got, I guess this is the weed guard right up here.
Yep.
This is made by War Baits. They make awesome baits too. And this is what it looks like rigged up. And the way this one works is while you're dragging it across, it has these little, they feel like little plastic or fiberglass, little parts that don't allow stuff to get into the hook. And they also make one like this, which is an offset hook. So this hook right here actually has, can you guys see that? Am I holding it close enough?
Maybe hold it from the underspin side. Hold it from the bottom.
Right here? Okay.
No, hold it from the bottom so we can see the face. I just want to show. There you go. I was going to show that's the same level.
Okay, so
the hook tip is the same level as the back of the head.
Yeah, and if you notice in like a Kitech type of swim bait, they've got this little groove right down the middle of them. And that's a perfect place. I think that's what that's made for, is to hide your weedless hook in there. So when you get these offsets and you rig it up, there is no hook to grab up on eelgrass, or if you're dragging it in freshwater over a log or some type of structure. So you can get away with a lot more with this lure without pulling in a big salad of eelgrass.
Yeah.
The normal cool bait or normal non-weedless looks like this, where it just sticks right out of the bait. This is what I primarily fish. I don't fish the weedless a lot. I think these really do work, but the way I fish, I'm usually not in the grass. I'm right above it, and I like how the strike feels on these. I feel like I set the hook a little better. I'm a little faster with this than I am with the weedless.
That's super cool.
But the weedless do have their purpose, mainly I think for dragging over items.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I gotta answer this question because somebody asked. Let's see. Where is it? Oh yeah, Hop Tag asks, has anyone ever caught 100 spotted baby bass in one day? I'm gonna say yeah. This guy.
Not me. My personal best. Oh, okay. So
it only took 16 hours.
Like that.
Go ahead. What's been your?
So my best day is 82.
Oh, that's super good. But you probably did it in less time than I did, though. What was the time?
It was an all dayer, so I don't know, cool. Probably 8 to 10 hours. It wasn't like it happened quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I know Roman has one of these, and you guys that are trying to, if you're out there slaying it, and you're trying to come up and figure out how many fish you're getting, you can go out, and when you get to the big leagues, you get one of these guys, and every time you get a fish, you get to click it in, and then at the end of the day, you look at that sucker, and you can see how many fish you got. They sell these at the tackle shops.
That's so cool.
I don't know. To keep track of fish, to have an honest number, this is what I do.
That's cool.
Every time I get a fish, I click that thing in there. Oh, and somebody came up with a question, I just saw this, about pliers, fish pliers.
Oh, yeah.
Ones that don't rust. So I bought these, and I've been fishing with these for a long time. They're P-line. They're made out of solid aluminum, and they're not that expensive. I think they're $20. Well, I guess that is kind of expensive for pliers, but they'll last forever. They don't rust. They're spring-loaded. These are the pliers I use, and they also have a cutting blade on here that cuts braid really well. So these are P-line pliers. They work really good, and they do not rust for this. And there's a lot of them out there. You take them out one time, and they're done. They don't squeeze anymore. They're done. So I recommend those. Whoever asked that question the other night.
That's a good one. Okay, let's see. Fishing San Diego asks, do you ever troll baits for spotties? I have been doing that a lot with pretty good success.
Yes, that's a great way. I know Paige, Day One Fishing, he's a great fisherman, and I see him trolling the A-rig all the time. He's trolling through the docks, so I know that's a proven method. You can cover a lot of water quickly trolling. I guess the key to that, though, is knowing if the bait is on the bottom, and you're not, if you go a long distance and you don't realize that thing's covered in eelgrass, you're just kind of wasting your time.
That's true.
So if you're good at trolling and you can get good at that, it could definitely be a good way to fish these fish. I don't do it a lot because every time I try it, I pull up my lure. I just can't seem to get the speed right. I pull up my lure and it's totally covered in grass. I've probably been doing that for 3 minutes and I had no chance at a fish. So once you get good at trolling, yes, that's an awesome way to catch them.
That's cool. That's good. That's a good answer too. Okay, cool. Let's see. I think that's okay. Cool. So if you got any more questions, pop in the chats. Now's the opportunity to really ask Brian some good questions. So, okay. Well, you guys come up with your next set of questions. I have a couple of questions for you, Brian. Okay.
I haven't even opened my tackle box yet.
I know, right?
I could go for another hour.
Let's go. Let's jump into tackle. Let's jump into tackle because I know you don't only fish cold baits.
Oh yeah. So there's kind of a MMFC secret where the skunk is happening.
Yeah.
Pull out the emergency bait, and anybody that's on the MMFC Discord knows what this bait is. And this bait is the famous Berkeley Gulp Mullet Chartreuse.
Break in case of emergency.
Break in case of an emergency. This is my emergency tackle. If I'm pulling a skunk, nothing's biting. This guy right here, the mullet, is almost like a guaranteed spotty. I don't know what they make those things out of, but if you leave that thing in the sun for like an hour or two, it shrinks down to about a third of the size it was, and as hard as a rock.
Oh yeah.
So I think this is just like a big sponge that holds all that scent in it. And while it's coming through the water, it's like an oil slick behind it of scent, and it's like, I think it's bacon scent for fish, and it's like it's ringing the door or the dinner bell for them. And when they smell that, they come over. So if you're having a rough day fishing, or if you're taking somebody out that doesn't know how to fish, or you want to guarantee yourself some fish, this is the bait to go for. You just put this on a ball jig head, like a 3/8, and just cast it almost anywhere in the bay. I've never caught a big spotty on this, but you'll catch a lot of spotties on this.
That's fun. So when you're working on that, on that 100.
Yeah, when you're working on the 100, go for the gulp.
Hop Tag says, what about halibut? What's the largest you've caught?
Largest I caught was a 38-inch halibut. Whew. And it was right at, okay, everybody knows the bridge in front of SeaWorld, right? It was right there. If you look on my Instagram, there's a picture of it. Its tail was as wide as my waist.
Oh, that's cool.
If you want to hear the story about that, it's a kind of a funny story. So it's back, oh man, it must have been like 2013 or 14. And I was fishing kind of with a cruddy reel and rod. And I got the bite on that, and I'm reeling it in. And as I'm reeling it in, it didn't feel that big. But then when it got to the surface, I saw this boogie board coming up.
Oh, jeez.
And I got to the surface, I got my net out, and the thing would not fit in the net. It was wider than my net. It was huge. And I'm going to try to get the thing in the net, and somehow while I'm doing that, I unscrewed the reel off the rod, and the reel falls down onto the ground, and the fish takes off, but it's still attached. So I have to get the reel back attached to it, get it, set up the pole, and get the gaff to get it out. And I was going to release it. I wasn't prepared to keep it, so I'm trying to gaff it real carefully, and I get it right behind the gill perfectly, and I got it in the boat. But it was literally a miracle I caught that thing, because you guys that fish for halibut know when they get to the boat, that's when they get their big second wind, and it's gone, and the reel fell off. It was a miracle to get that thing.
That's awesome. That's such a good story. Sweet. All right, so let's see. What are we gonna go over?
Well, I know I don't fish this, but I thought this was cool. I got this for Christmas.
Oh, cool.
Have you guys seen this? This is a Z-Man binder. This is probably something that when you buy these Z-Mans, they're already pre-punched. They have a hole in the side, and you can keep all your Ned rig gear in these little binders. And it keeps it nice and organized. I just got this. I thought I would just show it off for you, but it has a little clear pouch for holding your Ned rigs, and all you just fit in here really nice. So that's a cool little thing. Something I use too a lot of. Some people, I don't know, say it may be an advantage or it's cheating or whatever, is scent.
Oh yeah, scent's fine.
So, yeah, I love these scents. So almost every time I fish, I use scent. One of the scents I like to use is, you see that hot sauce?
Yep. Does hot sauce come in? It's like, is hot sauce one flavor, like one version? There's not different versions.
As far as I know, they only have one scent. I'm
Cool.
not sure.
Cool.
I've only used this type one, and then I use a sardine smell scent also, and that one seems to be really hot. Roman, do you need to take a break? You're bouncing around.
I do. Keep it going. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you guys see Roman.
No,
I'm watching him.
they can't see me. I'll be right back.
Okay. Roman has literally been dancing around in this chair like this for 5 minutes. And I didn't want to say anything, but I knew what was going on, so I had to give him that break. That was hilarious. I wish you guys could have seen that. Okay, I already talked about the emergency brake, the bait. I also carry a bag of all kinds of gold baits. These things are awesome for spotties, I think mainly because of the scent. I don't fish them a lot, but when the fishing's slow or you're trying to get in a lot of numbers, like a lot of dinks, these guys are awesome. Don't be afraid to go out there and get some of these gulps and go for, just especially for beginner fishermen, if you're not quite sure on what to get, those are like a guarantee. You guys want me to talk about, I wish I could hear you or see your question. if you guys want to talk about swim baits, Roman's back.
Thanks. I need to go with the protocol, like put up a sign, because like you can see me on the Skype camera and they can't see me on the regular camera. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so I was just about to talk about some swim baits and color options. Is that something that I guess everybody would be interested in?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I like to fish a 3.5 to 4 inch MC swim bait, usually natural colors. I think I mentioned that already. If I'm going for calicos though, I usually go to the chartreuse and the pinks and the whites, because for some reason calicos, I don't know if they can see it better or there's a reaction to them, but they like the bright colors.
Yeah, I fished like it's like a bubblegum color, like a pink one every once in a while when I'm not getting bit on other stuff. So I think that's a pretty similar color to that pink one you just showed.
That's this guy right here.
Yeah.
Bubblegum. Yep. And that works pretty good, especially for the calicos. Oh, and a bait that if I'm trying to only target big spotties, say I'm getting all the dinks, I'm tired of catching 12-inch or 10-inch fish. Come on, let me get illegal here.
Nice.
This is kind of my go-to for getting a pretty big spotty. It's a spinner bait.
Oh wow.
It's made by Eagle. I don't fish these a lot, but when I do, it always seems to get a pretty big fish. And these things are awesome because you almost fish them like a swim bait, at least I do, where it's down on the bottom, and they rarely get hung up on eelgrass or rocks or anything. It seems like they just bounce over whatever you put them on top of.
Yeah, it's almost like it has a built-in weed guard, like the blades are the weed guard. Let's see. Wayne saying, Roman, keep a bucket under your desk. And then he's also asking how big is that locker on your boat? That's a pretty big door.
Probably big enough where I can lay down in there.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
But I wish if I adjust the camera, I'll never get it back. But this is where I keep all my gear, and it's probably got, I don't know. I start stacking these things up. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like we can't see the stack, but I'm back on that spinner bait. Yes. Is that like a 3/8?
It's a half ounce.
Half ounce. Awesome. And then are you fishing with a trailer?
Oh, so I actually have an entire container I keep of just spinner baits.
Oh, nice.
So sometimes I normally like to fish it just like that, right out of the box.
Yep.
No trailer.
No trailer, yep.
But I do occasionally, here's one with a trailer. You rig it up the same way you would with a jig header.
Yeah.
They just go right on the hook. And that gives them that little tail kick, a little more action. For me though, it feels a little heavy.
Yeah.
So I like it where I can just feel that bottom and keep it right on the bottom. So I don't use a trailer very often, but sometimes if that's not working, I'll give this thing a shot. Oh, I remember a long time ago I was talking about that bait I bought in the clearance bin.
Oh yeah.
And it's awesome. And I've never caught a fish, still haven't caught a fish on it, but here it is. I saw this thing and I thought it would be awesome. It's made by Live Target. It's like a mini A-rig, and it looks just perfect. And I've thrown this 100 times, never caught one fish on it. So
that looks like it should get a bit.
I know, and it's so funny. You look at things in the store, and you fall in love with them, and you get out there, and it's just a dud. I should have known when it was in the clearance bin to just leave it, but it looked like an awesome lure.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Let me read through these comments real quick. Let's see. Okay, cool. Kevin likes a hot sauce. Let's see. Frank de Jesus says, what knot do you use to tie the spinnerbait?
Okay, so San Diego Jam is pretty much everybody's go-to knot lately. It's still not my go-to knot. I like the San Diego Jam, but when I first started fishing, I bought like a Berkeley line, right? And on the back of the Berkeley package, they had a Berkeley knot. I don't know if you remember this knot.
That's cool.
But they called it the Berkeley knot, and I learned to tie that way back in the day, and it's a great knot, and my hands are so good at it, and I can tie it so quickly, I haven't gone to a different knot. I've got so accustomed to this Berkeley knot. It's one of the same knots like where it's a self-tightening knot.
Yeah.
But I use the Berkeley knot. It's an old school knot. I don't even know if that's the true name of it, but that's what I called it because it was on the back of the Berkeley line.
That's cool.
San Diego Jam if you're gonna learn one, go for that.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's funny. I never heard of that knot, but that's interesting. Let's see.
I don't even know if it's called that. I just know that it was on the back of the package, and I was trying to learn a knot, and I bought the line, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll learn this knot.
And people tell you like, yeah,
So
just tie whatever knot you feel more comfortable with, and that's not. So I mean, that's good. It works. It works. Um,
yeah, so, I mean, I know like coaches go on the Palomar knots, and everybody's got their own knot. Whatever you can tie to where that knot's gonna fail, knot is not gonna fail, and you feel comfortable tying.
so Leonard,
If you ever try to Google the FG knot and try to do one of
oh yeah,
those, it's a braid to floral leader where it takes two hands, your mouth, your foot on the pole. I mean, if you can get those knots down, awesome. But those are things that I tie when I'm at home, when I have time. So on the boat, I have a kind of a quick knot I always go to that I can tie real quick, and I know I'm confident in it.
oh that's cool.
It's not a time to learn knots.
Yeah, exactly. Not time to learn knots. Yeah, exactly. Or like if the boat's rocking and it's windy and
Yeah.
looking down at the knot is gonna make you get seasick. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Stick with your go-to knot.
And practice that before you get out. Okay, so yeah. Leonard's laughing because he says he has one of those. I think he has one of those spinner baits, but he hasn't caught anything on it yet. What's your what's your retrieve on that spinner bait? Same as underspin?
Okay, so for everything on spotties, it's going to be pretty similar.
Cool.
A-rig, spinner. The only thing that's going to be a little different is the crankbait, but you're going to try to keep feeling that bottom. So when I'm fishing that spinner bait, I'm fishing it just like I would the underspin.
Yep.
I'm trying to keep it right above the surface. And with the spinner bait, those things put that big willow blade that's on those, they'll put such an action on it. When you hit the correct speed, you'll feel that vibration all the way to the tip of the rod. So if you're going too fast, you'll feel that rod vibrating like way too much. You need to slow it down a little bit. And when you hit that bottom and you get that perfect vibration, that's when that thing works best. You'll know, trust me, you'll know if you're going too fast because the rod feels like it's just going crazy.
That's awesome. Wayne's like trying to figure out what knot it was. He's asking if it's a trilene knot. Trilene.
I think that's it.
It might be the trilene knot. Yeah.
It's right when big game, Berkeley big game. I don't know if that still exists, but that's what everybody was using back in the day. It's called big game mono, and it was on the back of that box. So
okay, can you use that knot real quick?
Oh my gosh.
Here we go, Wayne. That's so funny.
Wayne, I'll do it next time. I don't have
cool, no worries. Okay.
Thing I can do.
All right, cool. No worries.
Plus, probably wouldn't be able to see it, but it's go through the hole twice, around 7 times, and then back to the hole, and then cinch.
Oh, okay. So. Okay. Yeah, he should be able to figure it out from that. That's awesome. All right, cool. Let's see. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming through. We're close to 8:30.
One question that not to pick up is it's kind of a weird question, but I usually get asked, how do you catch so many fish? So
I get asked that all the time, but I was kidding. No, I was kidding. I'm kidding.
Mean,
no, go for it. It's a good question.
I don't want to be the guy that's out there, saying, "Oh, I catch all the fish." I'm not. Trust me, I have bad days like anybody else. I've just been lucky the past 2 months, and my lucky streak just happened to be when I go out with you guys.
Nice.
So I guess everybody has their day. So I don't quite know why I'm telling you guys this, but it's kind of a really weird story. But anybody that knows me knows that I always fish in socks.
Oh, that's cool. That's right.
So if you look at any of my pictures from years back, I'm always in my socks, and it's a really weird story. Please don't judge me that I'm a weirdo. But so in my family, my grandma is she's known for being like a psychic.
Oh, cool.
In her town and in her family, she's like a psychic. And I know this is weird, please don't judge me on this. I think her psychic ability has genetically been passed down through me.
Oh, that's cool.
And the reason I think this, you guys are probably looking at me like what is that talking about?
We're not judging.
Is because one day I took my shoes off and I stood up on this deck, and I was standing on the deck, and in my bare feet I could actually sense the bottom. like a fish finder.
Oh, that's
I could
cool.
I could stand on my front deck, and I could sense the bottom through my feet, and I can also sense fish, which is super weird. And you guys are probably like, "What the heck is that?" I
No,
don't know, but
that's awesome.
I'm serious.
I thought you just wanted to keep your boat clean.
I I have inherited this psychic ability to sense fish through my feet. So every time you see me, I'm
In
in
your
my
socks.
socks
Yeah.
because I can sense the fish. Does that sound weird?
No, that's awesome. That makes total sense now. Because at first I thought it was like, man, he really likes to take care of his boat. Like,
Dude, come on, man! You believe that? I can't believe
What?
you ruined my punchline though.
oh shit,
The
sorry.
whole reason I do it, is in my socks is so that I don't scuff my boat.
Oh, you're
I
funny.
was trying to
You're
see,
so funny. I was like, yeah. I believe it.
I was trying to see if anybody was, how many people were at home going, "What is he talking
That's so
about?"
funny, dude. I totally believe you too. I was like, oh, hey man, like who am I to judge? Like, that's so good. Let's see.
But everybody asks me why I fish in my socks. It's because I don't want to stuff my boat. It's brand new. I don't want to get marks all over it. So I'm always trying to come up with a good story for that answer.
That's such a good story, dude. Let's see if anybody else has anything before that. Even salty said, "That's it. Somebody put shoes on this guy." I was kind of thinking, shoot, we're never gonna outfish him. That is hilarious, dude. Oh gosh, I love
Wish
it.
I had the abilities, but
That was so good.
I wonder if anybody was at home thinking, "What the heck is he talking about?"
And then Jet said, "I thought it was the Mexican water."
Oh, yeah, the best water comes from Mexico. Hopefully, I won't get Montezuma's revenge at the end of the night.
That's funny. Captain Dan saying, "Socks keep the BS off his feet." So good. Awesome.
Okay,
well,
so I guess we're wrapping it up. I could talk all night, but since we're wrapping it up, I'm gonna unveil. Hold on, getting a phone call here. I'm gonna unveil the big lure for the weekend. I don't know why I've never thought of this.
here we go. Put your full screen.
Soaking it in water. And for the MM, I don't know if anybody besides MMC is gonna laugh at this, but
oh, nice.
It is a rig.
Oh man,
loaded with mullets.
I don't know.
I don't know why I never thought of doing this, but this could be the game changer right here. Can you imagine the amount of scent that's going to be rolling off the back of this?
I know, and I noticed you have the oddball in there too. Keeping true.
The oddball, and I've got the big guy in the back here.
That's so good.
I'm so excited to see if this thing works.
That's gonna be a good one. Everybody's cracking up. Cal's cracking up over here. It's hilarious. That's funny.
Oh man. It could put off like this could be the dinner bell right here, man.
That's funny. Like, oh yeah, you gotta keep it soaked, right? Because otherwise the things will dry on there.
Yeah, it would be shriveled up by now by the end of the show. So
That's funny.
I'm gonna have to take them all off and put them back on when I get there. But man, I cannot wait to throw this thing. I don't know why I've never thought of trying that.
Perfect, man. I'm still like kind of reveling in the psychic. I was like, man, I was thinking about it. Man, it makes sense. I was like, it makes sense. So good. I'm like, wow. I'm like, how can you beat that?
I was wondering when I was going to put that in the show because I had planned on saying that at some point. I was hoping somebody was going to ask me either why do you not wear shoes or how do you catch so many fish, and that was going to be my answer. But nobody asked it, darn it. So I had to set it up myself.
I like it. That was so good. Cool. All right, guys. So unless anybody else has any questions in the next couple minutes, the next minute or two, we're going to start to wrap this show up. Brian, that was an awesome episode.
I don't even feel like I got to talk about it. I have a list. I have a list of items I was going to talk about. Two lists of all these items I was going to talk about. So we didn't even get to page 2. So
do you have you have to go?
I don't have to go. No.
Okay, cool. So guys,
but I mean, it's 8:30. I know everybody's got to get to dinner, so I don't want to sit here and talk all night.
That's true. Okay, so maybe we'll do part 2.
Hey.
Would you be open to that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, because I see that. I don't want
If
to.
they're,
There's
wait, I shouldn't say if I'm up to it, but is
okay.
everybody else up to it? So
Who's up to
if
it?
you're learning things, this
Who wants to see a 2 hour show and we go for another 30 minutes? Say like type in 2 hours in the chat. Oh, I see. Day one says 2. Yep.
okay, what I would propose to do,
Oh,
I don't know if
day
this is
2.
possible,
Yeah, go ahead.
is uh, live fishing. Like if we can
Ooh,
somehow
yeah.
set up my phone and maybe some live fishing on the water while it's still daylight out late. And I would like to try that, to actually show you these techniques in action live on
That
the bay.
that would be cool. That would be cool. So you get okay. So we might not go 2 hours, guys. Well, let's figure out for the next session because that makes sense. That's a good idea. So you would say you would be live streaming from the boat, and I would be live streaming from here, and then we kind of merge them the same way as we're doing now. Or you
got
want?
it, man.
Okay, cool. Okay,
That would work.
that would be cool.
Or I don't know if it's even possible, but I think that might
No,
be kind of cool.
it's definitely possible because in the bay you still get some good reception. So
It might have some lighting issues, is the only thing.
well, we can do something like yeah, we'll figure it out, but it's definitely doable, especially if you live stream from the boat and I'm still here, because as soon as it starts to get too dark for fishing, we could just like transition.
But I always think that showing how to do things is
Yeah.
much better than talking about how to do things.
That's
So,
true. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, so everybody's kind of stoked about the live stream. Everybody's stoked about the 2 hours. Okay, let's just do one more bullet point on your list, and then we'll wrap it up. Is that cool?
oh God, is there any specifics that anybody who has questions on?
Yeah,
throw them out now. If not, I'll just reach. Oh, here's Dink. This is my other cat.
Oh, cool.
Get out of here.
All right, cool. Yeah, you know what? Let's just wrap it up. Let's just wrap it up, guys. Sorry, guys. We're gonna wrap it up because I do not want to take up all of Brian's time, and we will plan to do an on the water show or on the water version because that sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that'll work. Both of your cats are named Dink.
No, Dink and Kink. One has
Oh.
a broken tail. It's Dink and Kink.
That's awesome. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for doing this with us. It's hilarious. It was fun. And you totally got me with that psychic story. That's so good. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, how am I going to beat this? Awesome. All right, cool. So we're turn on the music, do some shout outs real quick, guys. Thanks, Brian. We'll keep you on a split screen as we sign off. Thanks again, Cal, Sandra, I see you in there. Thanks, Leonard. Thanks, Cody. Thanks, Salty Dangler Dan. Thanks, Captain Dan. Thanks, Wayne. Let's see. If I don't shout you out, it's because you haven't commented enough. I think I got Leonard already. I got Kevin, Kevin Taylor, and also Sea Samurai Kevin. Also, let's see, Jet. Oh, I see Uncle Dan's in here. What up, dude? Welcome. Sorry, I missed your comment earlier. Then I see Paige was in here. Let's see what else I think I got it. Oh, Hop Tag. What's up, Hop Tag? I think you might be new to the show. Jesse. Also, Jesse, welcome. Let's see. It's pretty much everybody. Cool. Yeah, that's if you guys want to shout out real quick, type in good night or something in the chat and I'll shout you out. Otherwise, Brian, thanks again so much for taking the time. And if you want to say anything, any last minute, any last second things you want to say before we go?
Sure, I want to say hi to my MMFC buddies, Cal, please don't, Nelson, Salty, of course, you, Roman, Tony, everybody that goes out, Ryan. You guys are awesome. I love fishing with all you guys. The Discord has changed a lot for it. We always have a good time out there. You guys haven't gone out with this group. They're a great group of fishermen, and they're a lot of fun to be around.
Awesome, super cool. Yeah, and we love having you out. You're like the honorary kayak, and dude, it's like I feel like the motivation from you out there fishing with us. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit of competition. Like, oh man, he's catching a ton of fish. And you're like, oh man, I gotta keep up. So it's good. It keeps us on our toes, and it's also like I find it inspirational to just like see that you guys are catching the fish where I think that maybe there's no fish anymore, and they're like, yeah, there's fish. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
I'm usually not the guy that catches the big one. That's usually Jet or you. I
Awesome.
just catch a lot of them.
Right on. So cool. So then I will reach out to you and we'll figure out episode 2, and then we'll figure out how we can do it from the water. That'd be so much fun.
That would be awesome.
Cool. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for trivia night. I hope you guys are taking notes today, because some of the questions for tomorrow will be from this episode and from previous guests. Okay. So thanks again, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7. Trivia night. Good night. Thanks, Brian.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
A lot of fun.
I have to wait for it to run out. There it goes. Good night, everybody. Cool. Like the actual delay is like about almost like